Hey, what is going on everyone? It's me, Mr. Mara, and I want to take some time out to do a quick review of The Last Guardian, just my thoughts, impressions, and my recommendation over whether you should play this, pick it up, whatever it is, for the PlayStation 4. Now, for anybody that does not know, The Last Guardian is a game that came out exclusively for the PlayStation 4 near the end of 2016. This game was originally debuted in 2009. It's been around for, I think, in development since 2007 or so, from what I've heard, and it was originally supposed to come out on the PlayStation 3 holiday of 2011, but it's been canceled, it's been dropped, it's been kind of hidden in the shadows. We don't really know what's happened because it went into development hell for so many years, but we finally got our hands on it. And some questions might be, is the game good? Is it worth playing? Should I pick it up? And has it been worth the wait? And hopefully I can address some of those questions here. Now, I also have to say, first and foremost, this game feels like a game from 2009 or 2011. And that is good and bad in many aspects. The main ones being it's good because we got the game that was shown to us. There's so many games that stay in development for so long and they end up losing their original vision and they get completely redone to the point where they're not recognizable from their original standards that we had seen, when they were first released and first announced. So if you go back and you look at the 2009 trailer for this game, this is the game that we got, that we were shown in 2009, except it looks better. That's really the only difference between the final game and the original trailer that we had seen, which I think is great. The thing that's not so great about that is also this game is just not as polished as many other games you're going to pick up and play in 2016 or even 2017 whenever you're listening to this, which is a bit unfortunate, but I also don't mind just from seeing how all this happened. Some people also might say, well, the game stayed in development for so long, it should be much more polished, and, we're going to get into that in a bit. But first, talking about the game itself, you end up waking up and you are this boy that has mysterious colored markings all over your skin. And you wake up next to this giant beast, which I'm not sure of the pronunciation. On Digital Foundry, they say Trico. I'm thinking you probably have to say Trico. That's how I'm going to say it. But the boy in here also says Turico. So I'm going to call him Trico for the rest of this commentary here. Now, Trico is a giant bird dog type thing. He has horns and they're broken at the beginning, so you kind of have to help heal him up and everything. He also has wings, but he can't fly very well until, later on in the game. So this game is you escaping this area with Trico and trying to help him recover and also get back to where you're from. But you also don't really know that either. You have complete amnesia. You don't really figure out the story until later on when you end up seeing the history of the boy and the history of Trico and how they met and everything. And this game does a good job of delivering emotion and even just enough story without saying too much. Sure, you do have the talking from the boy because this is told from a perspective, so this is kind of a flashback game in a way, because you're hearing this guy talking who is the boy as an adult, and he is telling his story through this game right here. So as you're playing through it, you hear his narration, but aside from that, you really don't have too much dialogue, which is what I like about this game. And these are the type of games that Team Ico has originally made. Now, for anyone that doesn't know, there are other games from the same development company and studio, one of them being Ico, which I absolutely loved, and the other one being Shadow of the Colossus. And now the first thing comes into play, should I pick this game up? Look at those other two games, Ico and Shadow of the Colossus, or Ico, I guess you could say. If you like those games, so if you liked one of the games, or if you liked both of them, I would recommend playing this game. If you hated both of those games, skip over this, because I'll tell you this, if you didn't like anything from either of those two games, there is nothing you are going to like about The Last Guardian, and I would advise skipping over it. However, if you liked even one of those games, I would recommend giving Last Guardian a try. And if you liked both of the games, I would absolutely say you need to go and give this game a shot if you have a PS4. Now, despite the game looking and feeling a bit dated, I have to say it still looks good in a way, and I love the artistic atmosphere and everything that they took with this. You see, it's a very lonely game. It's supposed to make you feel a bit isolated in a way, and there's times where, you're climbing on top of these giant buildings and everything, you just kind of look around the landscape and you say, wow, this is something else. Now, I've also tried this on the original base PS4, and I tried it on the PS4 Pro, and kind of getting into some of the negatives here when it comes to the performance and such. So first off, when it comes to the graphics, you're going to see some bad textures on there that are remnants of the PS3 days. You're also going to have some performance issues when it comes to the frame rate. Now, the best way you can play this game is if you have a PS4 Pro, and you run it in 1080p, and then if you have a 4K TV in the middle of the game, you end up changing the resolution internally on the PS4 to 4K. You shouldn't have to do that. That's a big problem. You see, if you run the game at 4K, it ends up running it, it doesn't run it at native 4K, but it runs at something higher than 1080p, and you actually get more frame rate drops than if you're just playing in the base 1080p mode and you're upscaling it. Also, if you're playing on the base PS4, you are going to have, some more frame rate drops and such, which can detract a bit from the experience, but it's still playable, don't get me wrong. And that is one issue I have with the technicalities on here. Now, when I was playing the game, because I was trying to get the stable frame rate, I would boot up into 1080p and then I would change the resolution to 4K, but you shouldn't have to do that, and I really hope that is fixed up through some patches. On top of that, the camera is horrible. The camera is just absolutely horrible. And when it comes to the controls aren't the best. They are older style controls, and they are definitely, for this style of game right here. Some people are complaining about triangle for jump, for example, but it kind of makes sense too, where triangle is the upper point on the controller, so you're pressing that to go up, and then if you're jumping down or leaving or whatever it is, if you want to fall off, hit the X button because that is the lower point on the controller. When you play the game for a bit, it makes a lot more sense, and I didn't have an issue with that. However, later on into the game, the non-traditional controls combined with the bad camera can really screw you up at many points. Some people have also criticized the AI on this, where there's sometimes where Trico will just not listen to you, or he won't do a certain command or whatever it is. And I will say there are some points where yes, you probably will need to exit out of the game, restart the checkpoint, restart your PS4 in order to get it to work. There were 1 or 2 points where I had to do that, and those do need to get fixed up. But for the most part, actually, it's most of the time just Trico being, well, a bad puppy. This game is kind of similar to training a dog, which I found to be really funny, so most of the time it could just be attributed to that. So if you're saying, oh, this thing doesn't listen to me, or I have to command it 5 or 6 times, if you've ever raised a child, or you've helped babysit a child, or you've supervised one, or you've also tried to train a dog, or you've supervised training a dog, you know how problematic it can be, and that is what this game conveys. And when it comes to that as well too, you get that nice connection between the boy and Trico, and it's great to see, and it's so fun to experience as you get further into the game. Now, the storyline on this, as I said, it has been minimalistic, and you do kind of have to string things together. There are cutscenes, sure, but when I say minimalistic, I mean by that they don't spoon feed everything to you, and even in those cutscenes, they really don't resort to using a lot of dialogue, but it still pushes the story through. This isn't going to win an Oscar by any means, but it's one of those games, if you're just alone, you're playing it late at night or something, it can really get to you, man, and I still had so much fun. I had a lot of admiration with this game. Now, another thing as well, too, when it comes to replay value, personally, I want to play this through a second time. I'm going to be playing through it a second time, and probably even more. However, just be warned, it is a bit of a short game. I finished the game now. I was taking it slow, and I'm really not that good at games, and I finished it in less than 15 hours. I know that for sure because I end up getting the trophy for finishing it in less than 15 hours, so you can finish it in less than 15 hours easily. So if you're expecting a super long game, look somewhere else. But as I said, if you want to go through a single player game a few times, it is totally worth it, at least in my opinion. Now, when it comes to my final verdict on here, if you have never played any of the other games like Ico or Shadow of the Colossus, but you see this game, it sounds like something you'd like, you're interested in it, I would highly recommend giving it a try, especially if you have a PlayStation 4. I think it is a good game. I honestly think it is. And I had a fantastic experience with it. I personally loved it. I loved many aspects of it, and I can't wait to go through again. But overall, even with the technical issues aside, I think it is, at minimum, a good game. That is what I would say. Was it worth the wait? Well, that's totally up to you all. I really wasn't hyping it up, and I wasn't following it down to the T, but I can say I'm at least happy that I can say that I own the game and I unboxed it and that I was able to play it through it to the end, and I can make a review of it after seeing this game in development hell for so long. If you've played the other games, Ico and Shadow of the Colossus, as I said, I would highly recommend picking this up right here, giving it a try, just however you can. And if you didn't like any of those games, or this just does not appeal to you, or maybe you're just not a single player fan, I would stray away from this game. Now, is this game worth getting a PlayStation 4 over? Personally, I don't think so. However, if you do pick up a PS4, I would recommend, giving this game a shot. As I said, It's one of those games, it's going to stay in my collection just because I want it to be there. But this game is not perfect. It's not a godly masterpiece by any means. It's going to depend on the person, because there's been a few times where there's certain points where I think, you know, this game could be a masterpiece, but then I also think of the other issues and some of the technical things that set you back and everything as well too. So overall, taking off the hype glasses, taking off the nostalgia glasses and everything, if you can look past the main faults this game has, which might be, you know, a short playtime, which I felt like was fair. I felt like that was fair for this journey because I didn't want it stretched out any further. And, you know, some of the older style of gameplay, maybe the non-traditional controls, and also the bad camera, I'm really docking points on that. It's still a good game, and I would recommend giving it a shot if you're interested in it. Anyways, this is Mr. Mario signing off. Thank you all for watching, everyone. Let me know what you all thought of this game, if you have seen anything about it, if you're interested in it, or if you have played it. If you've played it, I'd love to know your thoughts on it as well, too. And if you enjoyed this video, a like would very much be appreciated. And if you absolutely hated it, and you hate this bird dog creature thing, you know, you can dislike the video, too. That's totally cool.